What's up, blockchain gang? This is Danny Draghi, and in this edition of my projects, I try to help you avoid projects like these that are almost certainly a scam. With so many projects to invest in, your best bet is to search for these red flags that I'm about to show you. Keep in mind that even if a project is not a scam, you could still lose a ton of money. And even if a project is some kind of elaborate rug pull, you could potentially even make money. This is just highly unlikely and unethical in my opinion. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just trying to tell you what I look out for. And the first thing is who found who. Did someone randomly email you or DM you on a Discord server? Or were you actively searching for projects on one of the many resources widely available and under public scrutiny? This first alarm was silenced in my head by the fact that one of the leaders of the project reached out to make a sponsored video about the project. They were very polite and they answered all of my questions. I was promised $2,500 in SERP tokens for doing so at the pre-sale price of 1.5 cent per token. I don't know if that's crazy or not, as this would have been my first sponsorship, and it would literally have cost them nothing to pay me that absurd amount. This came out to be 166,666 tokens at the pre-sale price of 1.5 cents per token, and the weirdest part to me is that there was no vestment or lockup period. They claimed I could sell the tokens as soon as they were listed, just like everyone else who got in on the pre-sale. Well, I'm unsure how much YouTubers get paid for sponsorships. I would assume that in a legal sponsorship, which is one where the creator doesn't declare it's a sponsorship, would get paid much more. I found 6 other videos on YouTube doing the same things that I were asked to do, and only one of them marked it as paid content. While my contact never expressly asked me to do this, I'm fairly certain it would have been a requirement to get paid. While this guy was honest about being contacted by the team, the rest of these poor schmucks all just happened to stumble upon the project, which is hard to believe as I had to do some considerable digging. As I started to read the white paper of the project, I started to realize that it had some really excellent ideas that address many economic issues players are faced with in games like Axie Infinity. They plan to launch with crafting, reduce the amount of possible breeding, scale the breeding costs with the circulating supply of in-game currency, offer gasless trading on their decks, with low deposit and withdrawal fees on the Binance Smart Chain, and even offer minigames for the weaker Serpents to complete to further retain their value. All of this sounded too good to be true, and I was getting really excited about the project and all the money I stood to make from a successful launch, so I almost created this video. In fact, I started writing the script, and that is when I started to discover some more serious red flags. The next red flag that was raised was how much the website appeared to be exactly like the Axie Infinity website. But this is probably more common than you think. I can't tell you how many white papers I've read that have the exact same identical template. The next red flag was the lack of gameplay footage. Their roadmap says the game's been in development for nearly a year, but the only gameplay footage shown on the website was a 5-second clip that was constantly looped. I did a Google image scan of the artwork throughout the site and could not find the assets used anywhere else, which is a good sign, but anybody can hire an artist on Fiverr with no intention of developing a game. By comparison, Axie Infinity was developed over the course of 3 years. A copy of a game can be completed much faster, especially if they have a bigger team. But if you are 11 months into a 13-month development cycle, you should have something other than 5 seconds of footage to show for all of your progress and hundreds of announcements to your community. The next red flag was the age of the website. A quick Whois domain search returned that it wasn't listed under the name of Serpent Arena and that there was no development studio they were doing business as. The website was also only 2 months old. The next flag was that I could not find any contact wallet address anywhere on their website. After doing a little digging, I found what seemed to be the right token due to the max supply and the payment in the amount of 1,666 tokens, the exact amount that I was promised. Either the other YouTubers didn't get paid or their audience commanded a different price. One thing that was weird was that there were no wallets with tokens in them from the pre-sale, while the website was showing 85.85% of the 350 million pre-sale tokens were already sold. I have never been involved in a pre-sale, so maybe the tokens do not get distributed until they're launched. I really don't know. I really hope the number is artificially inflated to create a fear of missing out, and that many people have not invested that amount of money in this project. I feel no shame in calling out these YouTubers, as they're attempting to get rich off of tricking their viewers. But a more likely scenario is that they were not going to see a penny from this deal either, and they just did all of that work and scammed their viewers for nothing. Sure, they may also be victims, but they're the kind of asshole victims that have it coming to them, if you know what I mean. They think they can hide behind their do your own research and I'm not a financial advisor disclaimers, but in order to make the content, they would have had to do enough research to uncover for themselves that this was a scam, and they still made the video anyway, and they didn't declare it as sponsored content. So fuck the greedy little bastard. Let's get back to sleuthing, shall we? The next red flag was that there were only 6 types of serpents that were described in the gameplay section of the game, and you can see them all featured here in the 5 seconds of gameplay. The next red flag was the amount of token distribution reserved for the presale, which was the same amount that was available from playing the actual game itself. The lack of Discord could be considered a red flag, and the Telegram and Twitter were also newly created accounts. Look, none of these flags definitely make a project a scam, but each one slightly increases the likelihood that you and everyone who invests in it will lose all of their money. When you start to see lying, and misrepresentation is really the only time you can be certain. And so in classic YouTube fashion, of course I saved the best for last. The team has a modest background with no actual link to a social media page to a real person. This is much easier to fake than actual identities. The prior experience of the team is perfect for a scam because it sounds credible, but it's so obscure that it would be hard to verify it. It's much easier for someone to believe you got 3rd place in the company picnic sack race last week than if you said you won the silver medal in the 2002 Olympics, because one of those facts are verifiable and the other isn't even much to brag about. Take note of this for all of you job seekers and resume creators out there. This is just a small detail I noticed, and I wanted to use it to highlight my attention to detail, so it's not really a flag. Frank is supposed to be the head guy, but Jeff is the most badass looking serpent. Anyone who has ever worked for a boss would know that their ego would never allow them to assume the identity of the least cool snake. They would also demand to be listed first and appear 30% larger than the other snakes. This leads me to believe that Jeffrey here is the mastermind behind the whole operation, and we may be dealing with a one-man show. If you are scamming people, which I think you are, Jeffrey, if that is even your real name, I hope your balls rot and fall off. Keep in mind that 2 of the employees have prior experience with SpaceX NFTs. This will be important in a moment. If we go to the partners page, only a few images came back as an actual logo to a real company. One of these is FBG Capital, and I cannot find anything about their partnership in a public announcement, which is strange. Another one is Florence Capital, which is an Indian investment company that only invests in companies run by women. I know I'm running the risk of accidentally misgendering someone here, but Frank and Jeffrey do not sound like the most feminine names. Many of these logos look like they've been palette swapped or slightly altered in order to seem familiar, this old Patreon or messed up GitHub logo. Even if these shadow companies do exist and are so cutting edge that Google is unaware of their logo, why are there no search results for Serpent Arena partnerships on Google? The NFT logo is a reused logo for SpaceX, which was active on Twitter, but only in October during their own pre-sale, and have been silent ever since. Remember, SpaceX is the company where 2 of the members of the Serpent Arena shared a prior work experience together. The Pancake listing was supposed to be launched today, December the 30th, and it still isn't showing or been announced. To be honest, I have been stringing Jeffrey along until this failed launch date to confirm my suspicions, and had it been successful, I would have probably uploaded the other video instead and declared it sponsored content, because I'm not a giant peen. In my opinion, if I prevent someone from investing in a successful project because of my overly critical opinions on it, then I have cost them just as much money as if those same opinions caused them to invest in a project that was a scam. So I will always be harsh, but I'll always do my best to be fair, for my own benefit and yours. I'm going to stop saying peace or goodbye at the end of my videos from now on, because that really isn't up to me. It is entirely up to you. If you don't want this time we shared together to end, You can always find many more videos on my channel. So I'll just say, I hope we can do this again sometime. But if this is our third date, it's time for you to put out and subscribe to that dude.